This tutorial is going to cover currency, which is an optional thing that participants can take part in the game. Now, obviously, they do not need to make currencies. They can just trade in resources, so they might want to buy a property, and they can pay in resources or property or products if the property owner allows that. Generally, that doesn't happen so much because resources and products, especially products, are just not that readily available, usually. But someone could make it work. I've seen it work in a little bit, in little segments of time I've seen that work. But generally, that doesn't happen. Usually people use currencies. Another thing they could do is, which might sound practical, is just keep track on paper. Hey, I'll give you 15 Q products. I'll take a loan from you for 15 Q products, and I'll buy this property from you. That can happen, and it has happened, but usually people want something to hold. And even loans and currency have been done. But like I say, generally people want something to hold. And when resources and products are not readily available, well, this is the option. This is what happens. So yeah, practically speaking, you would think that people would just trade in resources and products, but that's just usually not how it works out. People do use currencies. So over the years since 1989, even though this one says 1988, but I'll get back to that later, many different types of currencies have come out, and they each have their own uniqueness about them, usually not only in their physical attributes, but also the story behind them. Unique things happen. So I guess I can start off with this Austin right here. Austin currency. These were either known as dollars or pesos. It's kind of lost a history on which one they were called, but I think it was dollars. Anyway, these were factory cut, so that made them unique. Now this particular replica, these old ones are replicas, by the way, the new ones aren't. This particular replica is not factory cut, but all the ones that he had were, so that kind of made them unique and kind of got people, the other kids, interested in the currencies. So he basically, back then the rule was you had to have a country to issue currency. These days it's not like that. Any individual or entity, company, country can issue currencies. Generally still it is only countries that issue currencies, but that's not the rule of the game anymore. So back then it was, and this kid right here actually decided to start a country just for the purpose of issuing currency because he had these really cool looking cutouts that look like bills. So he designed his currency. I'm not sure if this was the original design. I know usually these actually had the year up here and the city down here, but what ended up happening is he eventually got too lazy and he just started selling blank bills, which people loved. So all the kids started buying those from him, and usually in different currencies. And that obviously caused massive inflation because kids would write in whatever they wanted up here, and the bill notes got really high. Eventually, a lot of the countries got together and said, hey, we're going to ban these. And then eventually they changed their story and said, well, we're only going to ban ones that are above a certain amount or something like that. So that actually did help with the inflation. It got it under control. So that's a pretty astonishing historical fact on that one. And these ones, obviously, especially when everyone started, writing them out themselves, there was a bunch of various different colors. I'm not sure what the original was, if there was a standard, I can't remember. But you could see them in black ink, blue ink, red ink. You could see them in marker, sometimes crayon, all sorts of different things. Okay, and then this one right here, the one that says 1988, this is actually before the game started. But this is what when I was a kid, this is what I based my future currency on. So I'm not sure if I filled in the 8s like that, but in this replica, that's how it is. And it's off memory, but I do remember in 1988 I had one with a clown on it. So, and I think he had a pointy hat. I'm not sure the exact colors, but I did use Roman numerals, and I did use this green background color and the black ink out here. Those are pretty certain. I'm not sure what shade of blue I used for the eyes or anything, but that's all guesswork. But this is a pretty accurate replica of the precursor of my money when I started the country in 1989. Another interesting one is this one up here for the Boboran franc. Now, this one was the first one ever to be printed on a actual printer. So this kid actually went out to like the garage sale and, you know, one of those computers with the green text and everything, the black and green screens, and he actually went into whatever program that existed back then and painstakingly made these currencies and printed them out, which gave them, again, it gave them an appeal to the kids, so they got pretty popular. And pretty much any currency that got popular had some kind of appeal to it, physically, if not, well, I think almost all of them had some kind of appeal physically. Even this one where it was really boring looking had that factory cut, so it was that's what made it unique. So there's always something interesting behind each currency like that made it unique and gave it its value, basically. And all these currencies experienced inflation and deflation for various reasons. In fact, this one has its own story that you can look up on the encyclopedia if you're interested. This one is a more recent one here. Now, this was the original design. It each one of these notes, depending on the number, had a different color, and that's the same with these Erythian zirnons here. Now that's kind of a new thing, because back in the day, usually there was a standard currency design when kids issued their currency back in the day. But there's no game rules about that or anything. They can do whatever they want. And then the hundreds were like this, and then eventually Gemini Royce, she made all these, all denominations this same kind of design right here with the rainbow colors. And that gave it some appeal. It did raise its value, you know, because people wanted it, and that increased its demand. And then they would use that to trade. And then, about this currency, this one actually was traded into 1996, but I'm not sure if the country may have been dissolved by 1995, or maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure, but this currency lasted a long time, and this one lasted quite a while too, considering that the country was actually only around, unfortunately, for a month or so. But this one was traded for almost a year up after that. Maybe not quite that long, but maybe 6 months or so, because it's very unique design. And obviously, if adults play, they can design their own currencies as well, and they're probably going to make it look a lot better. You can get it professionally done if you want, whatever thing. But in this case, this is what kids have done. Now, in my case, if I make a currency now, it's going to look exactly like I did when I was 9 years old, because my drawing skills have not increased at all. So another thing I want to talk about is, okay, so we covered the resources and products. Yeah, you can use those as currencies if you want. But generally, that's not going to happen. People are going to make the currencies. You can have IOUs or bank accounts with resources and products. Sure, you can try that. That would be interesting experiments. But I think at the end of the day, having currency is just more practical. Another thing they can do, participants can do, is have either like a digital currency, keep track of it digitally, or on paper, have a separate kind of currency. But usually people, like I say, they want something physical. It gives it its perceived value, as well as the power of the country or the entity that's producing it also gives it its value. So there's a combination between the physical attributes and the actual socioeconomic attributes behind the currency, which give it its value. And I think with this one, now that I look at it, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but I think the year was usually on top and the country was on the bottom. But like I say, especially when the kids started writing it out themselves instead of the actual issuer, there was a lot of variance in that